We're now on to 6.0, which are reports and action items from executive session. Do I hear a motion to approve 8 certified recommendations for the 2020-2021 school year?
Madam Chair, I move that the board accept the 8 certified employment recommendations as provided by Dr. Little and the senior leadership team for the 2020-2021 academic year.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there any questions or comments, board? I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Stacy, just before we move on, how many positions do we have remaining, and kind of where are we in terms of starting school with our positions?
So we have 23 certified vacancies. We're working with each of the principals in the schools to make sure that we can cover those vacancies by, we're actually, I don't want to steal the thunder from Howard later when he talks about the online academy, but the virtual academy is really going to help us a little bit with staffing because we can put more kids together in some sections. And so we've worked through that, but we're continuing to look. Some of those 23 vacancies are support staff type positions like guidance counselors or interventionists. We have an interventionist position that's open. So those are probably not as critical to fill at the moment as it is to have a teacher in front of the classroom. And this morning, we had a person in front of every elementary classroom that we have, so we felt pretty good about that. We continue to get resignations because of the COVID-19 and some questions about virtual teaching and that kind of stuff. So we're continuing to work through that, and I feel confident that we'll be in a pretty good place once school starts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stacy. Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Stacy?
I have one. This is Jada. Have y'all reached out to the ones that have resigned and asked them about their reasons and if they were for virtual, if they were interested?
Yes, ma'am, we have. We everyone that has resigned, Kim Scott, in fact, she made a note. She told me on Wednesday, the 29th, she spoke to 3 employees by phone, and they were not ready to jump into another obligation right now. The second one said it's a better decision for her to stay home and care for her family. And the last one said, in his exact words, "No, ma'am, I don't want to do that." So we are reaching out to them and trying to work with them if that's an option that would work for them. We've kind of changed, I guess. Originally, we had said, I think I shared last month, our last meeting, that there was no guarantee that they would come back to their home school, that if they went to the virtual, we've changed that model. So all our virtual teachers will report to the school that they are assigned in hopes that they would understand that if you're doing your virtual teaching from that school, then there's a good possibility that's where you're going to be when we come back in January. So, and they'll have to come back because it's the kids from that school that are in the virtual program. So we kind of tried to work through some of those concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board?
I was just going to mention, Mr. Stacy, and you don't have a crystal ball, so you can't answer the question I'm going to ask. But I know in today's, I think, House Education Committee, Superintendent Spearman encouraged the General Assembly to lift the $10,000 cap on retirees to help with the situation that we have, that we're going to be facing this year. And actually, if you look at the weekly numbers that SC for Ed compiles, Lexington 1's actually in pretty good shape. And we are traditionally in pretty good shape at this point in time, thanks to you and your staff. But I would just like to know, from your perspective, would the lifting that cap, would that help?
Oh, I think it would be a big help because we do have some retirees that won't come back because of the $10,000 limit. The other side of that, though, is they are typically on the older side, so some of them may have some concerns, but anything like that would help tremendously, I think. And even if we're trying to secure subs, or maybe secure more virtual teachers. I will tell you this, we had 100 teachers initially apply to be 100% virtual. We would need more than that to make the online academy work. Some of those positions we didn't determine could be virtual positions. So we had now gone back, our principals, like at our elementary schools yesterday, the principals, we identified you need 1 virtual teacher at grade 1, 2 virtual teachers at grade 2. We compared that to who had applied to be a virtual teacher to make sure we got those placed. And then they had to go out and tap some people to do that. So that's kind of the process. So yeah, if we had retired teachers that were willing to come back and just teach virtually, we could probably make that work really well.
I've had, my mother's a retired school teacher, and she and a number of her friends have expressed a desire to help, but they don't want to help if it costs them funds.
That's right.
And really, they would be well suited because of their experience doing the virtual teaching.
That's right.
Because they're very experienced at that. So I'm hoping that the General Assembly responds, because that has been a consistent request this summer from education folks.
I think it's been a consistent request even before this year,
Right,
because
right.
we obviously have a teacher shortage. And never really quite understood those teachers that are retired, that are getting paid, are still paying into the retirement system, and they're not getting anything back on the other end of it. So it's not like they're hurting the retirement system, they're getting paid for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions and comments, board? Okay. Let me remind you that Dr. Powers offered a motion to approve 8 certified recommendations for the 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Anderson seconded it. All in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and it is unanimous. We are now going to move to 6.2, which is a property contractual matter related to Centerville Elementary School, a sewer lift station, something super glamorous. Do I hear let's get a motion on second on the floor, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Do I hear a motion to deed 0.11 acres of property containing a sewer lift station located on the Centerville Elementary School to the town of Lexington?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the board accepts the administration's recommendation to deed 0.11 acres of property containing a sewer lift station located on the Centerville Elementary School site to the town of Lexington.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Okay, now, let's open it up, and Mr. Salters, you want to walk us through this contractual matter, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. If I could get the screen unmuted, Josh. There we go. All right. So I'll call your attention to the screen just to orient you again. This is Lexington County GIS website, and this is the Centerville Elementary School site. So the school actually ultimately sits on this piece of property here as we look to open it just here in a few weeks. As part of our planning for this site and any site, we have to identify sewer connectivity, and in this case, we partnered with the town of Lexington to connect to the sewer that they had in the nearby vicinity. And we developed a lift station here, approximately in this area right here. And that lift station will serve Centerville Elementary School. But we also developed that with a longer range plan of hopefully in the future picking up our other Gilbert schools and tying them into that lift station and then ultimately into the town system. That would allow us to basically get out of the sewer business and not maintain a waste treatment facility in the Gilbert community for our other Gilbert schools, much like we've done in Pelion in recent years with joint municipal water and sewer. This is a survey of the property, and what you'll see is again, as mentioned, it's 0.11 acres. It's completely fenced with some privacy fencing. Basically, what you see from the road is a small structure here. There's an electrical panel and a small roof over this, and everything else is pretty much in the ground. And it will be fenced, or inside of that fence actually, or protected with some trees and so forth around, as described on this this drawing here. So the main benefit of doing this is this gets us out of the sewer business, if you will. The town of Lexington takes over this facility, and any issues, problems, concerns come up with the operation of this pump station, will be the responsibility of the town of Lexington. And so we won't get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning to go address a faulty pump or something like that related to this station. So, so it's a really, really good kind of win-win partnership for both the district and the town on an ongoing basis. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Salters. Are there any questions or comments, board, for Mr. Salters? I think it's great, and it's exciting for Gilbert that they're tying into that sewer line, so it's a positive for everybody.
Yeah. And that's, that's something that we're obviously tying in here. We're working long-term on the other part of that project, but we'll keep going with it. This certainly enables that.
Ms. Smith, I was just going to make a comment. I'm always surprised when I'm reminded at how much our school district does that's not just in the classroom. I mean, wastewater treatment, sewer lift stations, road improvements, traffic signals. There's so much under the ground that our school district provides to the community. And so I think this is another great example of that.
Yeah. We do that with good partnerships with our
Yeah,
other
we do
municipalities.
good partners. Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Oswald, a second from Mr. Powers, and board, as a reminder, this is deeding .11 acres over to the town of Lexington for a sewer lift station. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries and it is unanimous.